So welcome back. Today we're going to do a cart build for my Kreg Foreman. It's kind of doing some more shop cabinets around the shop. Just to kind of get everything a little bit more organized around the shop. So we're just cutting down some plywood to width and then length. We'll have plans available for this, so just got to make the plans for it. Right now we're cutting it down, like I said, using the RZ mast. Obviously you can see all the sawdust that's flying out. You don't want to breathe that in. Now we're just cutting it to final dimensions. What I do is I cut it just over the final dimensions, and then I cut it to its final dimensions on a second cut to clean up the edge, so I have two clean edges and not the factory edge. Now I'm just cutting everything to width with the track saw, and then the final width for this bottom and top pieces on the table saw. So now everything's got clean edges. This is kind of what it's going to look like, bottom, top, side, and then two stretchers on top. Now we're just cutting down some stretchers, two of them, so both on top, so that connects on the top right there. And we're just cutting those down to final dimensions using the crosscut sled. Now we're not going to use the Kreg Foreman for this, but we're going to use the other Kreg jig that I have. I've got a lot of Kreg stuff in the shop, so I always like using them. So we're just going to use the Kreg jig here to make some pocket holes for the stretchers, and then attach those stretchers to the side pieces. Using Kreg screws and a Kreg bit, add some glues to the stretchers, and then put those onto the side pieces, and then attach the side piece to that as well. So pretty easy. 2 pocket hole screws is what I went with, and it's plenty strong enough with the glue. Now doing the other one. Now we're putting the side panels on and the backs. This was a pretty simple process. Everything's pretty much the same width and height and everything, so it doesn't take too long. Just a matter of doing some poly holes and screwing it in. I don't care if the screws are visible because it's a shop cabinet. I'm not going to go too fancy with the joinery, so screws on the outside is going to be just okay for me. Which is partly why I went with just some scrap plywood I had around. I could have used some pre-finished stuff, but I wanted to keep that for other projects. So this is just simple stuff that I had laying around. So this is all scrap material that I had laying around the shop, and figured I'd use it and get rid of it. And obviously you can tell right there, I don't really like the look of that, but it's a shop cabinet. I want to get rid of stuff. So now just checking square, clamping everything together, and then getting the rest of the screws in so it's all screwed and ready to go. Again, just using the countersink bit, and then screwing these screws in. Now I'm going to add a stretcher down the middle to kind of have a place for when I put the drawers in, kind of like a middle piece. I cut down some spacers, everything's all the same width, check for square, and then I put that in just for a place to reference for the drawers. Using the spacers helps me get the same spacing for the opening. Now it's time to make this a mobile shop cart, so now we're going to add the casters. I want to say these are 3-inch casters. Nothing too expensive, just something to be able to use to roll around the shop. Now I had some extra black countertop from a project. Now we're just cutting that down. Now we're going to make it thicker, so we're adding some stretchers or some thin pieces on the bottom to kind of strengthen and reinforce the bottom, but also make it thicker. So I'm just tacking these down with some brad nails. And then I'm going to add a trim piece to it. Didn't cut these any certain width or dimension. It was just more of whatever I had material wise. Again, this is all scrap project, so now we're just tacking those on, and then we're going to add the trim pieces on the side. And this is pretty much what it's going to look like on top. Now, if you don't have any like these bandy clamps from Rockler, you're missing out. It's one of the best ways that I've found to put trim on, or a lamello, but I don't have one of those, so maybe one day. But just a matter of adding a little bit of glue and then brad nailing these together and putting them on. And just adding a little round over profile just to unsharpen some of the edges so they're a little softer. Test fitting again. This is kind of the general look we're going for. Now I'm just securing that to the top itself, and 4 screws for that. As you can see, none of the plywood is edge banded. Again, it's a shop cabinet. Didn't want to waste money on edge banding all these cabinets together. Now for my old Kreg jig, I'm going to add a little hook for it so I can put it on the side. I will be redoing this and kind of giving a better jig stand for this, so stay tuned for that. But obviously you can see it's tipping, so I'm just going to add a little piece on the side so it stays from tipping, and it works just fine. And then I put it back on, it stays up. Again, RZ mask, most comfortable mask I've probably ever had. If you look in the background, there's a secret project going on, but I won't tell you. Now we're cutting these down to make drawer fronts. Now we've got 2 drawer fronts because we made 2 drawers. The drawers were just made in simple construction. It was just simple joinery. Notch out a place for the 1/4 inch plywood and Kreg jig those together. So 2 drawers for that. Now we've got the drawer front jig that we're going to attach the drawer front to. This has been a lifesaver to be able to kind of line my drawers up perfectly. This is, like I said, shop cabinets, and this wood's been laying around for a while, so the condition is not the best on some of this. Some of this wood's warped a little bit, but everything should work out in the end. Now we're just going to attach these with Kreg screws and get the drawer fronts attached. Testing the fit, and then we're going to add a handle. This is kind of one of the handles I had laying around, so I thought this would work really good for this drawer. Now we're going to load these up with all the Kreg stuff I have. Some of the stuff I'm still using in other projects, so it's not loaded in there right now, but I've got a lot of Kreg jig stuff. And we're just going to add some other stuff to the other drawers to kind of complete the look. And I added a clamp side piece just to store some clamps and all the other Kreg clamps that I have. I may redo that, but here's like the finished official final result. Pretty happy with it. It's going to really help my shop and kind of organize things the way it should be. Now I got another like sander project that I want to do, make something for sanding, and then some other things down the road. So simple test on the Kreg Foreman, make sure it works good, nothing's rattling around. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and stay tuned for more videos in the future.